God is warning you right now, not out of anger, not out of disappointment, but out of deep, relentless love that refuses to let you quietly drift into what was never meant for you. There is a reason your heart has been restless lately. There is a reason your sleep has been interrupted. There is a reason certain faces, memories, and uneasy thoughts keep surfacing when you try to distract yourself. This is not random. This is not coincidence. This is God placing pressure on your spirit because time is shifting and decisions are becoming permanent. You have been standing at a crossing without realizing how close you are to stepping into something that could either unlock everything you prayed for or delay you for years. And God, in His mercy, is reaching for you now before that step is fully taken. You asked for signs, and now the signs are speaking louder than ever, but your fear has been trying to convince you that silence is safer. You told God you wanted clarity, yet when clarity came, it disrupted your comfort. You prayed for answers, but when the truth began to expose what had to change, you hesitated because change is painful even when it is holy. God is warning you not because you are bad, but because you are valuable. He warns what He cherishes. He corrects what He plans to use. And right now, He is calling your attention because something you are entertaining is quietly pulling you away from your true purpose. There is a door in front of you that looks harmless, familiar, even comforting. It feels like something you deserve after all the stress you've endured. But God sees what you cannot see. He sees where that door leads. He sees the trap behind the pleasure. He sees the loss attached to the comfort. He sees the distraction hidden inside the affection. And He is warning you now because once your heart fully attaches, it will be harder to leave. Once your routine fully adjusts, it will be harder to break. Once your identity starts to bend, it will be harder to remember who you were before you compromised. You have been sensing distance in your spirit during prayer, sensing that something is off, sensing that your fire is not burning the way it used to. You still love God, but lately your hunger has been dim. That is not because God moved away from you. It is because something else has been slowly moving into the center of your focus. God will never compete for your attention the way the world does. He will not scream over your distractions. He will gently withdraw His felt presence until you notice the absence and remember what true peace actually felt like. This warning is not meant to scare you. It is meant to awaken you. It is God shaking your inner world so that what does not belong will fall away before it grows roots. You are not imagining the tension you've been feeling. That tug between what you want and what you know is right is real. The uneasiness you feel when you think about certain choices is not anxiety, it is conviction. And conviction is one of the greatest gifts God gives when you are close to drifting. You have been stronger than you realize. You have survived what should have broken you. You have carried burdens that were never meant to be yours. You have held back tears that could have filled oceans. And now that you are finally close to relief, the enemy would love nothing more than to redirect you into a counterfeit version of peace. Something that feels good but pulls you away from what God has prepared. Something that feels like love but slowly erodes your boundaries. Something that feels like rest but quietly weakens your discipline. God is warning you now because what you are about to choose will shape the next season of your life more than you understand. One decision can shift your entire destiny. One compromise can silence years of prayer. One moment of weakness can create a chain that takes years to break. But one act of obedience can unlock doors that no human hand could ever open for you. You have been telling yourself that you still have time. That you will change later. That you will come back to God once you fix a few things. But this warning is God saying later is not guaranteed the way you think it is. Not because your life is ending, but because certain opportunities only knock in specific seasons. What you delay today may not be waiting tomorrow. What you ignore now may not return when you finally feel ready. Obedience is always time-sensitive. There is someone reading this now who has been flirting with a decision you know you shouldn't make. You keep justifying it by saying God understands your heart. And He does understand your heart, but that is exactly why He is warning you. Because He knows how deeply this will wound you if you go forward. You think you are strong enough to handle it, but God knows what it will cost you emotionally, spiritually, and even physically. You cannot afford to lose your peace for temporary satisfaction. You cannot afford to lose your calling for temporary comfort. You cannot afford to trade eternal reward for momentary pleasure. God is not trying to restrict your joy. He is trying to protect it. Every boundary He sets is a shield, not a cage. Every no He speaks carries a deeper yes hidden behind it. You may not like what He is warning you about, but one day you will be grateful He didn't let you destroy yourself quietly. You have cried in private about things you pretend don't bother you. You have smiled in front of people while your soul has been bleeding in silence. God has seen every tear. God has heard every broken prayer you whispered when you felt too tired to speak out loud. And He is not silent now. The warning you feel is proof that you are still deeply seen, still deeply loved, still deeply chosen. Do not confuse God's patience for permission. Just because the door hasn't slammed shut yet does not mean it is safe to walk through. Just because there hasn't been immediate consequences does not mean the direction is blessed. God often allows space for repentance before He allows the weight of consequence. This message itself is evidence that you are still in that space. There is a spiritual battle happening over your focus. What you give your attention to in this season will determine what grows in your life next season. If you continue feeding what God is warning you about, it will eventually starve what God planted inside you. Your fire will fade. Your discernment will blur. Your prayers will feel empty. And you will wonder how you drifted so far from who you used to be. The drift always starts quietly. But here is the beauty of this moment: you can still turn fully back without shame. You can still choose obedience without condemnation. God is not waiting to punish you. He is waiting to restore you. He is waiting to renew your strength. He is waiting to place a peace inside you that no distraction can compete with. But the warning must be honored before the blessing can be released. You do not need to explain everything to everyone. You do not need to justify your obedience. You do not need to make your boundaries make sense to people who are not responsible for your destiny. Your only responsibility is to stay aligned with God's voice, even when your emotions protest. There is such a deep calling on your life that the enemy has been focusing harder on you than you realize. The intensity of your distraction is directly connected to the power of your purpose. If your destiny were small, the resistance would be small. But because your future carries weight, your battle feels heavy. This warning is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are close to breaking through. God is not done with you. He is refining you. He is removing what cannot go where He is taking you. He is separating you from attachments that would hold you back when acceleration begins. The discomfort you feel now is the friction of transition. Growth always burns before it blooms. You have been praying for God to use you, but you cannot be used effectively while being entangled secretly. You have been asking for elevation while entertaining what could collapse your foundation. This warning is God saying, "Let it go now, so I don't have to remove it later in a way that hurts more." Do not underestimate how fast life can change when God steps in. One moment of obedience can realign years of delay. One surrendered decision can reverse seasons of confusion. One act of faith can break cycles that have followed your bloodline for generations. The power is not in your perfection, it is in your willingness. Right now, God is closer than you think. The heaviness you feel is not rejection, it is conviction pulling you back into safety. The tears you've been holding back are not weakness, they are release. Let them fall. Let your heart soften again. Let your pride come down. Let your defenses relax. You don't have to fight God for control anymore. You are exhausted because you were never meant to carry this alone. You don't need another distraction. You don't need another temporary escape. You need the kind of peace that only comes from alignment. You need the rest that flows from obedience. You need the confidence that comes from knowing you are standing exactly where God wants you to be. This is your moment to pause. To breathe. To listen instead of rushing forward. To choose long-term peace over short-term relief. To trust that God's warning is actually mercy in disguise. You have survived too much to self-sabotage now. You have prayed too hard to turn back now. You have come too far to settle now. The version of you that God is forming requires courage, discipline, and surrender. It requires letting go of what feels familiar so that you can receive what is truly aligned. God is not trying to take something from you. He is trying to keep you from losing everything He has prepared for you. Do not ignore this warning. Not because something terrible is about to happen, but because something incredible is waiting on the other side of your obedience. You are not alone in this moment, even though it feels like you are carrying the weight of the world in silence. God sees the questions you are too afraid to ask out loud. He sees the doubt you try to hide behind faith-filled words. He sees the fear you bury under productivity and smiles. And still, He stays. Still, He speaks. Still, He warns, because His love for you is not seasonal, and His patience with you is not fragile. Right now, your spirit is being tugged in two directions. One direction promises ease, comfort, and familiarity. The other direction demands faith, surrender, and trust without having all the answers. One direction soothes your flesh. The other strengthens your soul. One direction feels safe because you can control it. The other feels terrifying because it forces you to rely completely on God. And standing in the middle of those two paths is exhausting you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. God is warning you because staying undecided too long is also a decision. Indecision slowly becomes disobedience when God has already made His will clear. You keep asking for confirmation, but deep down you already know what He is saying. The issue is not that God's voice is unclear. The issue is that obedience is uncomfortable right now. You have been waiting for the warning to feel gentle. But sometimes love comes as a stern whisper that refuses to be ignored. Sometimes mercy comes dressed as discomfort. Sometimes protection feels like pressure before it ever feels like peace. There are things in your life that God allowed for a season that are now becoming weights instead of blessings. What once helped you survive is now obstructing your growth. What once felt necessary is now becoming a distraction. And God is warning you because you are trying to carry into the next season what only belonged to the last one. You are stronger than the habits trying to pull you back. You are wiser than the lies whispering that you can't change. You are closer to breakthrough than the resistance wants you to believe. But you cannot reach forward while clutching backward. God is not impressed by how long you can survive misalignment. He is moved by how quickly you respond to correction. He is not measuring your past. He is watching your present response. And right now, He is watching what you will do with this warning. You have asked God to remove what is not of Him, but part of you still fights to keep what He is trying to extract. You want freedom, but you hesitate to release the chains because they have become familiar. Even pain can become comfortable when it is all you have known for a long time. But comfort is not the same as peace. Familiarity is not the same as alignment. And silence is not the same as approval. God is warning you because the next level of your life will require clarity of heart. You cannot walk into what He prepared while still secretly negotiating with what He already told you to leave behind. The door ahead is narrow, not because God is restrictive, but because what you carry must be refined before you can step through. There are people connected to your destiny who cannot fully access you while you remain spiritually divided. There are blessings that cannot settle on a distracted heart. There are revelations that cannot be released into a crowded mind. God is trying to simplify you, purify you, and align you, not to punish you, but to prepare you. You may not realize it yet, but this warning is actually proof that God is about to move in your life in a significant way. He always cleans the vessel before He pours the oil. He always quiets the noise before He releases direction. He always exposes before He elevates. You have felt exposed lately, not to people, but to yourself. Your excuses aren't working like they used to. Your distractions feel empty faster than before. Your appetite for shallow things is shrinking. This is not you losing interest in life. This is you outgrowing what cannot feed your future. God is warning you not to run back to what nearly destroyed you just because it feels familiar. Not to shrink yourself just to be accepted. Not to silence your convictions just to keep temporary connections. Not to trade your calling for companionship. Not to settle for less because waiting feels uncomfortable. You have mistaken waiting for rejection. But waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. Delay is not denial, it is refinement. Stillness is not stagnation, it is alignment. There are answers coming that will make current confusion make sense. There are reasons that will soon be revealed for why certain things did not work out the way you wanted. There are protections you will only recognize in hindsight. But for now, you must trust the warning even when you do not fully understand it. God does not warn without intention. And His intention is never to harm, it is always to preserve, to redirect, to save, to restore. The enemy tries to rush you into decisions that God designed to be chosen with clarity. The enemy tries to pressure you with time so that you move without discernment. The enemy tries to exhaust you emotionally so that you agree to what you would have rejected in strength. But God is warning you because He wants your next move to be intentional, not impulsive. Your emotions are loud right now, but God's voice is steady. Your fears are shouting scenarios that may never happen, but God is quietly speaking truth that will never fail. The real question is not what you feel, it is who you will trust. You keep asking God to take the pain away. But some pain is not meant to be removed, it is meant to be listened to. Pain often speaks the language of warning before destruction arrives. Discomfort is often the alarm that tells you danger is nearby. Ignoring pain does not make it disappear, it only allows it to deepen its roots. God is warning you because He wants you free, not functioning. Whole, not surviving. Aligned, not coping. You have grown used to carrying emotional weight that God never assigned to you. You have been loyal to people, situations, and patterns that were slowly draining the life out of you. God is warning you because loyalty without discernment becomes self-betrayal. You do not need another season of learning the same lesson. You do not need another cycle of breaking and rebuilding. You do not need another reset that could have been avoided through obedience. This warning is grace interrupting repetition. Your destiny is too precise for casual decisions. Your calling is too important for careless attachments. Your future is too valuable for divided loyalty. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not failing. You are in a crucial moment of decision that will shape what your next chapter looks like. And God is close, closer than your fear, closer than your confusion, closer than your past. He is not asking you to be perfect. He is asking you to be willing. Willing to let go. Willing to trust. Willing to obey even when your hands are trembling. Willing to choose long-term peace over short-term relief. Right now, heaven is quiet not because God has stopped speaking, but because He has already spoken and He is waiting for your response. You are standing in a moment that looks ordinary on the outside but is monumental in the spirit. Nothing around you may seem different, yet everything within you is being rearranged. Old desires are losing their grip. Old fears are losing their authority. Old voices are losing their power. This is not accidental. This is God slowly disengaging you from what once controlled you so that you can finally move freely into what He promised. What you feel as pressure is actually transition. What you feel as confusion is the dismantling of false clarity that once kept you trapped. What you feel as delay is God removing shortcuts that would have cost you integrity. You are not stuck. You are being repositioned. God is warning you because your life is becoming precise. Random choices will no longer fit where you are going. Loose living will no longer survive in your future. Half-hearted faith will no longer sustain your next level. You are being called into intentional living now. Your yes must be real. Your no must be firm. Your obedience must be complete. You are no longer in the season where you can afford to guess your way through destiny. You are no longer in the season where mistakes will only cost you time. Some decisions now carry generational weight. Some choices now will shape not only your future but the emotional and spiritual climate of those connected to you. God is warning you because your influence is expanding even if your platform is still small. Eyes are watching you that you will never see. Hearts are being affected by your choices without your awareness. Your obedience will become someone else's permission to believe again. Your disobedience could become someone else's excuse to give up. You are not just living for survival anymore. You are being shaped for impact. There are prayers you prayed when you were desperate that God is preparing to answer now when you are calmer. But your character must match the weight of those answers or the blessing itself will become a burden. Big doors require steady hands. Open heavens require disciplined hearts. Visible favor requires invisible obedience. God is warning you because what you are becoming cannot be built on compromise. What is forming in you now will carry authority. And authority cannot rest on unstable foundations. You may feel like parts of you are being stripped away. Your appetite for certain conversations is fading. Your tolerance for certain environments is shrinking. Your patience for shallow connections is wearing thin. This is not isolation. This is separation. You asked God to elevate you without realizing that elevation always begins with isolation. He often removes you from crowds before He places you before them. He often silences distractions before He amplifies your voice. He often empties your hands before He fills them with something holy. God is warning you because emotional attachments that once felt harmless now have the potential to derail alignment. You cannot afford soul ties that weaken your clarity. You cannot afford connections that distort your identity. You cannot afford relationships that require you to shrink who God is growing. You thought losing certain people would destroy you. But it did not. Instead, it revealed how strong God's hand has been holding you all along. You survived the separation. You survived the disappointment. You survived the unanswered questions. And now God is showing you that you are not fragile, you are forged. You are not starting over. You are starting from deeper wisdom. You no longer fall for everything that glitters. You no longer confuse attention with affection. You no longer confuse excitement with assignment. You no longer confuse noise with purpose. Discernment has been quietly rising in you even when you didn't notice. God is warning you because you are about to step into a season where distraction will be more dangerous than struggle. When you were fighting just to survive, distractions were obvious. Now that you are stabilizing, distractions will come dressed as opportunity, comfort, and affection. Not everything that feels good is sent by God. Not everything that opens is meant to be entered. You must now ask not only, is this good, but is this God? Your future has specific coordinates. Timing now matters. Alignment now matters. Precision now matters. There are moments ahead where one conversation will shift everything. One choice will redirect years. One prayer will unlock doors you never knocked on. But those moments require a heart that is not divided when they arrive. What is coming next will not look like the struggle you survived. It will not carry the same heaviness, the same confusion, the same emotional exhaustion that made you wonder if you would ever feel light again. God is not only removing what blocked you, He is restoring what was drained from you. Strength you thought you lost forever is returning quietly. Vision that grew blurry is becoming sharp again. Hope you buried under disappointment is breathing again. You thought the warning meant something was about to be taken from you. But what's actually happening is that God is making room for something you never could have carried before. The emptiness you felt was not abandonment, it was preparation for overflow. There are prayers you whispered years ago that are moving toward fulfillment now. You stopped praying some of them because the waiting hurt too much. You convinced yourself you had matured past them. But God never forgot. He simply waited until your character could hold what your heart once desired without being destroyed by it. You are about to realize that what you thought was delay was actually mercy working overtime. The timing you argued against was the timing that saved you. If God had answered you earlier, it would have broken you. If He had released it sooner, it would have owned you. If He had rushed the process, you would have been unprepared for the responsibility attached to the reward. You are walking into a season where things begin to flow instead of fight you. Not because opposition disappears, but because you will no longer be internally divided when it arrives. Your yes has weight now. Your no has authority now. Your prayers have clarity now. What once confused you will soon confirm you. God is not restoring you to who you were before the pain. He is elevating you into someone wiser, steadier, and stronger than you have ever been. You will not repeat the same mistakes because you will not be moving with the same blindness. Discernment will guard you. Patience will guide you. Peace will govern you. You will no longer chase what drains you. You will no longer beg for what dishonors you. You will no longer stay where you are tolerated instead of valued. You will no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You will no longer confuse attachment with assignment. You are done surviving. You are stepping into building. The atmosphere around your life is changing. Conversations are about to shift. Opportunities are about to appear unexpectedly. Doors you stopped knocking on are about to open on their own. People who once overlooked you will suddenly recognize you. And you will know it was never about your effort, it was about God's timing. You will not have to manipulate your way into this season. You will not have to compete your way into it. You will not have to beg your way into it. When God releases what He has prepared, it arrives with confirmation, not confusion. What is for you will feel aligned, not forced. It will feel peaceful, not chaotic. It will feel secure, not unstable. It will feel clear, not cloudy. There will still be moments when fear tries to speak. There will still be whispers of doubt from your past. But they will no longer rule you. You will hear them without being controlled by them. You will feel emotion without being governed by it. You will recognize your growth when triggers no longer define your reactions. When silence no longer scares you. When waiting no longer weakens you. When obedience no longer feels like loss. The same God who warned you is now the God who will reward you, not as a transaction, but as a revelation of His faithfulness. You did not earn this by perfection. You arrived here through surrender. Some of what God is about to give you will be so personal that only you and Him will understand how impossible it once seemed. You will look at your life and realize that what you once cried over is now standing in front of you as evidence of answered prayer. And you will be grateful not only for the blessing, but for the process that made you wise enough to keep it. You will stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and you will start saying, "Now I understand." Your story will begin to heal other people in ways you never planned. The survival you went through will become someone else's roadmap. The tears you shed will become someone else's permission to believe again. The restoration you experience will become someone else's proof that God still moves. And the best part is this: you will not rush this season. You will not waste it. You will not numb it. You will feel it fully. You will build carefully. You will love wisely. You will move slowly where you once ran blindly. You will finally rest without guilt. You will finally trust without fear. You will finally hope without bracing for disappointment. And when the enemy tries to remind you of who you used to be, God will remind you of who you have become. This is not the end of your story. This is the moment the storm hands you back the pen.